Hello guys, what's going on? In today's video I want to talk about DLCs. You can see it in the title. Are DLCs a rip-off? I want to share my opinion on that. In the background I'm showing you a little bit of co-op gameplay, me and a friend playing Sniper Elite Nazi Zombie Army 2. Just playing that recently, so I thought I'd share a little bit of gameplay. I hope you enjoy that, but let me get right into it. With the announcement of the Day 1 DLC of Far Cry 4 that just happened a few days ago, you can see it once again. People get really mad. You see it in a lot of forums and on Reddit. You know, people are mad that there is this Day 1 DLC of Far Cry 4 and it includes exclusive content and it really feels as if the game has been shredded into pieces. And I think that is actually the problem. I don't think the problem is DLC in itself, because if you do DLC right, then it's absolutely fine. Like in the old times, I remember games like Quake 1, for instance, that had an expansion pack. So you got the full game, it was a completed game, but then about a year later, or like I think 8 months or something, it actually, at least it feels to me like that, it took a while until the expansion pack came and it added new weapons, it added new levels, but it was a complete separate part of the game and it didn't feel as if it has been cut out of the original game. Another good example for a good DLC politic, in my opinion, is Borderlands or Skyrim, because you get these really lovely extensions of the stories and it's more like, well, you enjoyed the original Borderlands, you finished it, great. If you want more, just give us £5, you know, and you get an extended story. So that works for me, that's fine, because it's totally optional, but people get really mad when it feels like their game has been mutilated and cut into pieces and pieces of the original game have been taken out or removed from the game and sold separately. Great example of that is Mass Effect 3. They had a terrible Day 1 DLC. I mean, they also had like this Shadow Broker DLC. I don't remember the exact name, but I think it was quite good. People loved that one. But then like the Day 1 DLC where you had a character that more or less obviously was in the main game, but it's been taken out and sold as a separate DLC. Assassin's Creed has lots of really annoying DLC. Another thing to mention, I think, are all these gimmicky DLCs that you see a lot, like weapon skins or hats. In some games that might be alright, like I think, for instance, in Team Fortress 2, it works quite well. You have all these quirky character customizations. You don't have to spend money on it, but if you want to, you can do that. I guess the most ridiculous case of this that also went through the media a lot was in Elder Scrolls 4. You had the horse armor as a DLC, and I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous, right? I mean, why would anyone put money into that? But these items have to sell, right? Otherwise the companies, they wouldn't put them out there. And then kind of hand in hand with that go like the season passes. So you purchase the original game and it already costs you whatever, $60. But then you have to purchase the season pass on top of that, and it will give you access to all the DLC, and not even often like all of it. Sometimes it's just most of the DLC, and you kind of have to still buy certain things separately. So I think people are fine with having DLCs in general and all the kinds of DLCs that I just talked about, if they are not like removed from the game. So how did it all start? To me personally, I remember that the first time I got in touch with DLCs was Modern Warfare 2. Because the previous Call of Duty games, like the one before that, even had maps that you could get for free. You just played the game, I remember that, you know, and suddenly it started downloading, and first you're like, oh, that's annoying, and then you had 5 new maps, and you didn't pay anything for it, and it was just amazing and add content to the game. But then Modern Warfare 2 came along, and they started to sell map packs separately, and that really made a huge difference. I personally, I have to say, when it comes to Modern Warfare 2, I purchased all the map packs, but that was because I really loved that game. I really played the shit out of these map packs, and I think each map pack gave me another 80 hours of gameplay because I really enjoyed the game. So even like you could argue that, like, I don't know how much it was, like $10 for 5 new maps is quite pricey, and that's probably true. But if you just take the value that it offered me as a player in terms of hours of fun that I got back, it's actually fine. Like, I was alright with paying $10 for the maps, simply because I had a lot of fun playing them. But that really made the start where the developers and the publishers saw like, oh boy, we can make a lot of money by selling maps and content separately. So that led to the whole wave of DLC that you can see now coming up. Every game, like nearly no big game is coming out now that has no DLC. So I guess the question comes up, is the current state of DLC bad, like the way we experience it right now. And I think for that, you kind of have to look at the reasons why developers and publishers do DLCs. On one hand, I mean, I talked about it. Yes, you see a lot of money, but why do they want more money? I don't think it's only that they want to put more money into their own pockets. It's also because the development of games in general got just so much more complex. You know, games are more complex in the making. It's more people you need to hire. It's longer hours you have to work. And with all that, you need to spend more money to reach the quality that gamers expect these days. So that really increases the price that the game costs. And I don't know if it's true. I don't know the calculations that publishers like Activision do, you know, that nobody sees. But I could imagine that actually they have to come up with new ways to make more money off their games, because otherwise the complexity of games as they are now, they just don't add up anymore, and you need to find new ways to make money. So one way of doing that is DLC. Another way of doing it is like hyping the game up and then pushing pre-orders. You can do collector's editions, right, where people just pay horrendous amounts of money for like a tiny plastic figure that comes with the game. So all these are actually methods to generate more money that is flushed into people's pockets and that make the detail and the richness of games that we see nowadays, just mostly in graphics actually, I think, make it feasible that these games can happen. Because if you're honest, like, games didn't really get more expensive over the years. They are still 50, 60 bucks, and they used to be 50, 60 bucks, let's say 7, 8 years ago. So there's no real price increase. If anything, it's actually a decrease, because due to Steam sales and all these things, you get a lot of games just cheaper after a short amount of time. One more interesting thing that I'd like to mention is that Epic Games' Rod Ferguson said something quite interesting. For him, DLCs stop piracy and work against the reselling of used games. Because obviously you buy a used game at GameStop or whatever, and then you want to play the full game. So even you just spend £10 on the game in the shop, the publisher or the developer didn't see anything of that money because it's a used game. So they hope that at least you put a little bit more money into the DLC, so the publisher and the developer gets a little bit of that money. So that kind of makes sense. The argument to talk about piracy, that it stops piracy, I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm sure you can pirate like Game of the Year editions with all the DLC. So it's a bit of marketing jibber jab in there. But overall, I can understand where they're coming from. In my case, personally, it only leads me to waiting a little bit longer for the Game of the Year edition. I'm not willing to pay for each little piece of DLC that comes along, you know, and spend horrendous amounts of money on that. It's not really something I would do, but I understand that a lot of people, they don't want to get spoiled, so they want to play the latest games as quickly as possible. Because if you wait today, like even a month or something, so many people spoil stuff on Reddit and in forums, and you just kind of, the fun is taken out of the game. So I can understand that. But like I said, I personally don't really want to support these kind of DLC politics. It would be really interesting to hear your thoughts on this. Do you buy DLCs? Do you enjoy DLCs? Do you think it's right to sell DLCs separately? What are your thoughts on this? Leave this in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I'm sorry there are not that many videos recently because I've been rather busy. Thanks to all my latest subscribers. I hope you're watching this. Thanks for subscribing, guys. You are the best. So anyway, guys, I thank you very much for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. I see you guys next time. Bye.